Cogeco.
Hashtag the issue. I'm Mark Carr, and welcome to the show. Tonight we've got two special guests. Rob Duvall, who's been here before, and thank you very much for hosting last week.
It was wonderful. Thank you very much.
That was great of you. And Brad.
Thank you.
Brad Clements. Now, people haven't heard from you in a while. What have you been doing?
Trying to behave myself mostly, but
and it doesn't work, does it?
No, this time of year it's Christmas trees, so I'm keeping busy on that. Right
Keeping busy there. Well, it's great to have you here.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you so much for coming out. Tonight we're going to start off with a question. Obviously, everybody has heard about live, work, play. The 4 municipalities, region of Halton, which you were a member of for many years. Always use that tagline: live, work, play, and sometimes even retire. You know, it sounds good. What does it really mean? Is there anything behind that comment about live, work, play? Rob, what do you think?
Well, the challenge that it brings is a lot of people have to move away from the thought of brick and mortar. Brick and mortar is fine. Mm-hmm. There's a need for it. I think what we're seeing is the more that we get into this telecommuter and teleworker situation, that more space is needed for those younger startups. The 2 and 3 person, company. It's really expensive to get that square footage. There's plenty of it around, but usually they want you to take the whole thing. They don't want you to just take one small part of it. So that is always a challenge. And I think what's happening, I think the trend that we're seeing is more people are now expected to work out of their home. 5 short years ago, it was still a little odd, I work out of my home. It didn't look like you were serious, but that's not really the case anymore. Most people, have their conference calls right out of the comfort of their own home. They're doing a lot of video conferencing. They're doing a lot of work remotely. I know there's no real need for us to have brick and mortar, even in our business, although we do have other shared space.
And you're on the road servicing your customers
all the time.
So the office would be vacant most of the time.
We have customers right in Nanaimo, BC, and I visit them once a year maybe, if that, but generally I can just do everything remotely and control their entire network all from the click of a button. So we've kind of gone to that, and it's changed a lot.
Brad, because you're on the farm selling Christmas trees and so on, your office is right where you
in the house,
where you. But it's always been that way for you.
No, only in the last 20-30 years, yes, because. My council work, of course, I had the office in the house, and of course the farm type of work. I keep the office in the house, but I think it depends on the type of job you're doing. This live, work, play. If you're more blue collar, perhaps you have to look for the industries that are actually employing that type of help or labor. And but on the farms, there's lots of farms around here that do employ a lot of people, and I guess we could talk about the horse business, but I mean, hopefully it's coming back again.
Hopefully it will stay, but
certainly there's a lot of people involved in the rural part of Ontario, or rural part of Halton, which is really an easy way to say live, work, and play. Let me tell you, because people envy me living in our farm underneath Rattlesnake Point.
But how do you feel about it?
Well, I'm getting tired.
No,
but other than that, yes.
Would you like to, what did you think of it maybe 10, 15 years ago when it wasn't so popular?
And it wasn't an issue. I mean, where I live today, I worked in Toronto for 2 years. I worked in Hamilton for 13. I worked in places around and didn't have to move. So from that perspective, this is a great place, but it does mean in those cases moving out of the town. But today's thing certainly absolutely has changed to the point where people are working from home and so on. But I think the realities of it is only, it fits certain people and certain people or certain occupations. It just doesn't work that well. And I would say also from the home workshop type of operation is some people want to get back into that after they've had a very high stressed Bay Street type of job, and they want to get back into something less stressful. So the live, work, play in your own home or in your unit underneath your house or your apartment, well, it makes some sense too. And there's others of us that perhaps are waiting to go the other way. We've had enough of it, and it's time to retire.
Sure, and it depends on the individual as well. There's some people that can't work out of their home; they're too distracted.
Yes.
You know, it's one thing to say I'm starting at 9 o'clock and I finish at 5, and I'm quite comfortable working out of my home. And there's some people that are so distracted by, oh, I have to do my own laundry and I have to wash those dishes, and what they do is they hyper focus on one thing and then forget about their job and then move back to the other part of it. So you have to be very disciplined as well. It doesn't work for everybody.
No.
It works for some and not others.
And obviously for the municipality, the planning that they have to have to allow home-based businesses. I mean,
right.
not live work places, but home-based businesses. That's meant that the municipalities have to keep up or move quickly to allow that type of thing. And obviously, it doesn't mean retail businesses where you've got a lot of traffic in and out. So how does the municipality deal with that?
It's come on since I was on council, and it's come on fairly strong here in Milton. And I don't know how successful those businesses are, but they're personal service businesses, which is again a different focus or a different component. It's not everybody's cup of tea for personal service, but a lot of them are that type of a business, or just straight working out of a room in the house. Perhaps something like mine, but
but it's so. I guess what you're both saying is it depends on the individual, but what type of things do they have to? Because we're fortunate to have two individuals here that do work out of their home, so they live, work, and play a lot in their municipality of Milton. We'd like to get you involved in the conversation. Hashtag the issue. Tweet us questions or comments that you've got on live, work, play in Halton region, in the municipalities of Halton Hills, Georgetown, Acton, Milton, or Oakville or Burlington. Now, what type of individual, what do you think it takes, Rob, as an individual to be able to work from their place of business?
You have to be
or
very,
live and work.
Live and work. First of all, when you finish your job, you leave your job. Funny enough, it's still at the home, but you leave your job behind you when you're done. And then you go back to what it is that you like to do. It's a really difficult thing to do. The only reason that I've seen people move out of their homes as an individual. So I'm talking, the onesies, twosies type thing, not, a bunch of people working out of their home, which is another problem we'll talk about in a moment. But when you have just an individual who goes, I'm really not getting the quality of work that I need to get done. This is where other maybe incubation sites really work, where you are leaving your home, you're going to your place of business, and you're getting your job done. So when you do come home, then it's just home time. There's some people that really need to have that happen, whether it be just by accident or through osmosis. They really need to make sure that they're disciplined in saying, I'm doing work between these times, and then I will do my personal things at lunchtime. And I know some people that actually do work out of the home, and they actually leave their house for lunch every day just because that's their time, because they look at their home as their place of business. So they actually go out.
Now that's got to take a different
dedication
mindset.
too.
It does take dedication, and I have to admit I've done it even myself, where I'll just go, somewhere in town and support the local business, of course, but I will actually leave my office because the phone never stops. And
well, it's a break for you.
It's a break.
It's a break for you too. I mean, you could go. In my case, it's like to when I get up in the morning to when I go to bed at night.
Right.
It doesn't matter to me whether I do the job at 7 in the morning, 7:30 maybe,
Sure.
or 7:30 at night. It's to me, so I don't have that structure that you're talking about for me.
Right.
Not necessarily, it'd probably be a good idea if I did, but however.
But you're
I
just
don't-
not built that way.
Well, that should be, yeah.
No,
And I got
you-
used to that way, and I can handle that way. And of course, the kids aren't running around, they're all gone now, so
Right.
it's not quite the same distractions as one might have raising a family in a house and having, okay, yes, we gotta define very clearly the time frames that you want to do it in, yes.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It
But
is.
do you enjoy working from your home?
Yes,
You
in
said
my
that.
ca- no,
you
yes,
said
because
that hesitantly.
because a lot of my stuff is volunteer work too, not all of it,
Yeah.
but of course, and I do that at the same time, or along with. So in the sense that, where do you draw the line, and I'm not too sure in my case just where to draw the line, but I mean, the Community Foundations of Halton North, the Ontario Steam and Antique Preserve Association, just stepped down from president of that this last week. So, those type of things did take time, and yes, they're businesses, but they're your pleasured side or your volunteer side of businesses as compared to doing the nuts and bolts. And if something doesn't need to be done this afternoon, it probably isn't going to get done from my perspective. But the other problem is with a farm is, okay, I got to go cut the grass.
That's 7
I gotta-
days a week,
Yeah,
24
well,
hours a day almost, isn't it?
I don't have to feed the
Yeah,
cattle,
yeah,
so it's not
okay,
too bad.
all right.
But, okay, I don't have anything to do in the office today, but I got to go out and do something in the field.
Yeah.
So you got to discipline yourself for the time frames of when these things must be done in the field. And of course, Christmas trees are no different than any other product in the field. You do have to spend time to, at certain times of the year, to specifically concentrate on getting that job done.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So
The thing
what would you suggest, Rob, for somebody looking at starting a business, starting at home where they can have all of those positive attributes and some of the negative ones as well. How would you suggest somebody start off in business?
It's always important in any business, and I've done it for, quite a while now. I don't think I've been employed by other people, but I've always been an entrepreneur. So I started at a very young age, which is unusual. I actually started my startup business when I was 19. And I'm in my 40s now. Oh, and
you got him
and you got me beat. I'm glad to hear that because we're the ones on the show, so I guess we're doing something right.
Something right.
So that's a little bit of an up for both of us there. But I agree. The thing to do is pay yourself first. And if you're spending a tremendous amount of money by having what the dream is of having a storefront property and a lot of overhead, and then you find out that you've gone bust in 6 months, that's not a great way, or to have your dream flourish. It actually kills the dream. It could have been a great idea. It could have been a great, forward-thinking idea, and you probably would have made it if you didn't do those mistakes. I've made plenty, as we all have. And it's like, if I could have done that a little differently, I probably would have. But I think the big thing to remember is don't overextend yourself. Start off dipping your feet in the water a little bit. Find out about your market. Talk to other people that are in business. The one thing that I have noticed that has been a tremendous help is there's so many social media sites and issues now. They have these get-togethers, and you can actually use the knowledge of other people and say to them, I'm thinking about starting this business, and they'll tell you the pitfalls that they've gone through. I think that actually the advantage to social media these days is the fact that there are so many groups and so many places you can go to get that knowledge. You really didn't have that before. It wasn't nearly in the forefront as it is now. It's very easy for people to get some information and fairly quickly without having to do a tremendous amount of work. So they should utilize that. They should really think about starting small and then working their way up. And then when they hit that magic number, and they should have a number in their mind, say, okay, now I'm going to go, if needed, into a brick and mortar location.
But I think also, though, they need to talk to professionals. I mean, it's becoming so complicated today to deal with CRA, for an example. So you need a CRA, Canada Revenue Agency. So you need accountant or
I agree.
that type of a person to help get you started.
And
And-
a
and
lawyer to get
lawyer-
you started off in
Just
business. to
started
set it
off
up.
because
Yeah.
it's so easy to get fouled up so quickly that, I mean, you can fall into it like I did on many businesses that I sort of have gone through in the last, I won't say how many years, but I just started, hey, this is a good idea. I got the facility, I got the opportunity to do it, let it grow. And so that's the way it grows. But as you grow, without getting your foot too burnt, you do have to say, oh, gee, I better get a hold of an accountant. He's got to help me with my books. You got to start it the right way. You got to pay your WSIB. You got to pay your this and that if you have a staff. So professionals have become very important, I think, as much to get you started. And you take what they have to say with however you wish. But I do think that that's an area that really needs some attention as you move. Maybe not the first day, but the second or third day.
So in other words,
You're right.
don't think that you know
everything. That's right. But you don't.
Sometimes
And
those
you don't.
have to
You
be
don't.
farmed out to
It's-
the experts.
I
It's-
couldn't agree more.
It's very easy to trip up.
Oh, it
and,
is.
And especially, I've never done my own income tax or my own business accounting tax. I've always had a professional do it, and I've paid money for it. And that, I think, to a large degree, it keeps you on the straighter and narrower road
Yeah.
than falling off the field someday and getting whipped with a multi-million-dollar and a big
Right.
bill.
And I've always taken the stance that why should I do things that I'm not good at? Quite often, small
save-
businesses
to save money?
To save money, but you don't save money.
No.
It's a complete fallacy to think that, because what you end up doing is you end up spending much more money fixing the problem when it gets out of hand, or you end up making mistakes that are costly. It seems like that in the start, but that is not the situation. I really enjoy giving those jobs to someone else. I've always had an accountant and give that information over. I've never done my own logos and things like that. I give that to a professional company to do because I'm poor at it. So you just don't do things you're poor at.
Does it keep you focused on your main business
Oh, yeah.
by allowing the professionals to take over some portion of your business?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so. We just took over another company, and
He's
they
already
were
buying out companies.
yeah, which is great. We were expanding. We bought out another company, and they were doing some things really poorly, but some things very well. And I think what the big surprise to them was, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. It's like, no, we have somebody that handles this, or this goes to another company. And what happens is now they're all pumped up. Now they're all excited, going, wow, I can't believe we were asked to speak at a worldwide conference. I can't believe that we have all these banners and everything. Everything looks bright and colorful and everything looks great, because we don't do that. All we do is approve things. So we just sit there and go, I like out of these 20 ideas that, and that, and we don't want you doing those things anymore. We don't want you doing your own paperwork. We want you to submit your hours and your descriptions technically, and somebody else handles all that. You just keep doing what you do best. Fix the problem.
But isn't it control for an individual wanting to having that entrepreneurial spirit, wanting to control everything?
It's in our DNA.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
But how do you get away
It depends
from
on
that?
the type of business. I had a storage business for 46 years, part-time.
Yeah.
And it started because I saw an opportunity so the barn wouldn't fall down. I got the barn fixed up, and that's where it started, 1963. So, and I didn't need the lawyers and that, but it didn't take long for me to realize that I should have an agreement with these guys. I mean, it's very simple. You put something in the barn, and no problem, as long as the barn doesn't burn down or something.
And you get a little revenue for it, so it
So
seems
helps
to
pay the taxes
make
and
sense.
it helps put money back into the barn to keep it up. But you reach a point where, yes, you have to do this, and you realize you have to do that. But at the same time, you don't necessarily need a whole pile of stuff, again, depending on your focus. If that's an opportunity you saw and you do it, you have to judge where you need to get more professional help in.
Right.
And when I can still do this myself, if you want to keep the full control. And that's what we've been talking about, is
Okay,
keeping
so-
the control. So it depends on the magnitude, how deep you want to get into, or how sophisticated your what you're trying to do is working, you know. To me, I keep it simple, but I've been in simple businesses, so it doesn't really, you know, it works one for the other.
But it's simple for you because you're in the business.
But you're right, we all pay taxes and we all have WSIB, we all have those things. I know how they work, I understand how they operate, but I don't want to do it.
The nuts and bolts.
And yeah, the minute, I heard somebody say this the other day, this was fascinating. Someone said, you know, should I be doing my own books? And this was out at Rattlesnake. There was a get-together the other day for the Halton region. And there was someone speaking on CRM. Actually, my wife was doing a thing on CRM for business. And there was another lady who was doing QuickBooks and Simply Accounting. And these were to all startup businesses. And someone actually asked the question, should I be doing this? And she said it phenomenally well. She said, I believe so, because the minute that you don't enjoy doing something, you shouldn't be doing it. I don't enjoy doing accounting. I enjoy getting the money in, but I don't enjoy doing the counting.
You don't enjoy it going out.
Exactly, the whole tax thing. But you know, I think that was a good lesson for other people to hear as well from a professional, because she said, every single time I've seen a company try and do it themselves, it's in such disarray by the time I get it, and they've lost out on thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars in tax revenue. Right, and write-offs and things like that, that now I'm playing catch-up for the next 2.5 to 3 years, and you're still paying me. So if you start off on the right foot, you're a small startup company, and you buy your accounting package, but let somebody, you know, manage it, then you're okay. And it's also important as a business owner to do research on these things. Anyone can call themselves a bookkeeper, which is unfortunate in Canada. You can literally walk into Staples, you can buy a QuickBooks program, and then you can walk out and call yourself a bookkeeper. So you really do need to investigate as a small business owner as well. Just, you know, who am I dealing with? Because it is a personal thing. These are people that are getting you off on the right foot, but I'm a big advocate in spending the money so that you can get down to your business, what you do best. Whether it be complicated or a more simplistic business, you started that business for a reason, because you know it. You saw an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've talked about where we're working, what about the play aspect of live, work, play?
I think this is one of the greatest communities, being Halton, that you can play as much as we have here, compared to Toronto, compared to Shanghai, compared to Beijing, you name it. We have wonderful outdoor activities that people can participate in if they wish, and we have all kinds of, well, we're getting more and more, all kinds of opportunities from the recreational, you know, the municipal recreational, that there's almost, within limits, there's almost nothing that we can't enjoy in this part of Ontario, and I think that's just super.
I know we have skiing so close to us.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to go very far. And now, you know, we're getting more sports facilities built here every single time we turn around, which is great. They're expanding the green area in Halton region to link it all together. There's just all kinds of great stuff that they're doing in the area. And that's great. They should be applauded for that, because that's where you have to really get a whole bunch of people involved, not just municipally, but provincially as well, to make sure that those spaces are expanded upon and used more efficiently.
And they have to be used in order to be there, and to justify keeping them there, I guess.
Right.
Absolutely.
And Colin Best brought up last week on the show that the demographic of young people moving into Milton is actually quite high.
Yes.
It's much higher than the average of a lot of other municipalities. So
Burlington, for example, has a huge contingent of retired people.
Right, and so this actually is a bit of a feather in our cap in our own backyard, saying, we have a younger demographic, so they're obviously going to want to do more sports and outdoor activities. So the whole play aspect, you know, bringing small children into the area, apparently, you know, once again, we have a very high amount of 3 to 6 year olds in the area. The schools obviously indicate that. So these are the type of things that we really want to focus on. It's really important for small families and small business to really stay here so that they don't have to go far.
Well, what job, just in the next 3 minutes, Brad, what job does the municipality have to encourage this live, work, play in their community?
Well,
Do they have a big role to play?
Well, the play part, certainly. Well, I mean, we just talked briefly about the recreational facilities capability, and with the expanded town for Milton, for example, certainly there's a lot more opportunity there than was ever when I was growing up in this community. I mean, there was the rink and a few other spots in the mill pond, and that was about it. But seriously, that the rest of it is I was just trying to think that today, I believe the statistics are reasonably accurate still as the last few years, that there's as many people coming to Milton to work as is going to east of us, or coming from the east to Milton. So I think there's a mixture of people as well, so that the ratios, I think, from the municipality's point of view, probably stay relatively the same, or relatively what they're looking for, I should say. I don't have the latest, but I'm sure that that's part of it, that in fact there is a number coming in from Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, Acton, Georgetown, Milton, and vice versa. Burlington's coming to Milton, Milton's coming to Burlington.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of mixture that way that from a Halton perspective says we'll live, work, and play right in our same place. And,
Actually, that's encouraging, because not everyone is going to go to Toronto. I think the big push has always been, all these transit issues between, Milton and Toronto directly, but really it's more the municipalities that surround Milton. I think what we're going to start seeing is maybe more of a handshake agreement and getting some links set up properly with the other closer lying municipalities. It's probably more
it's been
important.
talked about for years in the transportation issue. yes,
Right,
in
right.
For years.
But that's a big part of it, isn't it? To be able to live, work, play, and not move out of your community, there has to be good transportation when you're there between 9 and 5.
Yeah, and the rural roads in Milton, and because I live there, I see it. I mean, they're very busy these days, and it's not just one-way traffic. It's actually two-way,
Yeah.
and so it tells you that there is people going in all directions from our community and finding employment and vice, in and out of the municipality, so that.
Sure.
We can't be an island unto ourselves when you call live, work, and play, I guess maybe is what I'm saying as well.
Yeah, it has to be broader than that.
Yeah, just broader than just Milton, anyway, for sure.
What we're going to do is we're going to take a break and come back. We do have some tweets, so maybe we can look at the comments from the people out there, and if you do want to get involved in the conversation, take part in the discussion, hashtag the issue. And get involved, tell us what you think, and we'll be right back after these brief messages.
In the last 50 years, immunization has saved more lives in Canada than any other health intervention. Immunizations are safe and effective. The Canadian Immunization Guide recommends immunization as an infant and continuing through all stages of life. Whether you are a parent, a young adult, or a senior, talk to your doctor, nurse, pharmacist, or local public health office about being up to date on your immunizations.
Protect yourself.
Protect others.
What's your vision for Canada? We dream of a country where each new generation can explore rugged shorelines, wide open prairies, and vast forests, a place where wildlife can thrive. This is the vision that drives the Nature Conservancy of Canada. We identify the land, we secure it, and we protect it forever. It's that simple and that effective, but we can't do it alone. To find out how you can help, visit natureconservancy.ca.
TV. You're watching TV Cogeco, truly local television.
Welcome back. Hashtag the issue to get involved in the conversation. And gentlemen, I think we have some tweets right there. So let's see. Here we are with transit again. Transportation, curbing the commute. What are some of the challenges to encourage people to use transit? That's a much bigger question than it seems on a couple of words there.
I don't know how to answer it because I'm not up to speed. But the transit today, and we'll use the town of Milton example, is very expensive, and I think it's covering a lot of the town. Now, how I think part of that question would appear to be how to get from here to Oakville or something like that, perhaps, and that's another story that I think has been in the works for years, and I think it's still grinding around. But the issue in Milton here is very expensive, the transit in Milton, even as it is.
But just getting around Milton is difficult. But have you ever tried Milton to Burlington, Milton to Oakville, or Halton Hills down to Burlington?
You do have to drive.
Pretty much impossible.
Yeah. You just can't do it. So, does the municipality have a responsibility to provide better transit?
If you're in charge of it, yes. And we are in charge of our own transit in Milton. So it is vitally important that we make sure that the routes are covered properly. Transit will never be a money maker. It's always a money loser. So fine, but many things are. And I can justify in my own mind making sure that people are getting from point A to point B, because usually they're the workers that need to get around town, and that's totally understandable. The problem is that it's not transit that makes a lot of sense. And let me give you an example. So there's really no east-west line that goes, through Derry. In order to get where you need to go down the road of Derry, you have to go all the way where the hub is, up to the GO, and then grab another bus, and then grab that to get where you need to go. And what you could walk almost in 20 minutes takes you about 45 by bus. Now, to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And I don't think it makes a lot of sense to anybody. So the question,
therefore, it's not used by a lot of the people.
By those people.
So the question is, how do you get people out of their cars and into public transit? I think generally people want to be green. I think people want to take transit where it's convenient. I know certainly going into Toronto lately with all the construction, it takes me 2.5 to 3 hours to get from where I am here in Milton to Toronto. We do it about twice, I'd say every month, and that is plenty enough for me. And I grew up in Toronto, so I know Toronto very well. I know all the little side streets to get around. And I'll tell you right now, with the Pan Am Games coming, there is such an influx of road construction. You can't get anywhere down there. So it is absolutely crazy. So do I want to take transit? Absolutely I do. Can I take it out of Milton? Absolutely not. I have to go down to Burlington, Oakville, grab the GO there, because I can't get back in time to do any of my other work because they stopped the transit service. So I have to still drive in my car to get down to where I need to be. So that's either Trafalgar for me or down Bronte and go the long way over to Burlington.
There's an equally big an issue, and that is justifying transit. And the in Milton here, that comes to intensification. And the provincial government, I'm not supporting necessarily the issue of supporting the provincial government's businesses, but they've asked for intensification and to make certain corridors very high density. Well, the first people who would complain are the ones that want people to take the bus, but they don't want to see the increased density. And I think that's a political problem that the people have to realize that's here, and that's real. And unless you're going to help solve transit, you got to start allowing that type of discussion and actual build. And the working within the brownfields, as they call it, or the re-intensification of communities, is an attempt to
As
try
a-
to
as
do
a
that. Hasn't done,
counselor,
but
that's a losing proposition. I've been there,
Yes,
and,
and I've
and
been
Brad,
there
you've been there, and you're going to be there
going to
soon.
be there very soon.
So believe me, it's not.
but
an
that's
enviable
that's
position.
reality of transit.
is
That's reality of transit. Yeah.
Okay, we've got another tweet, and I want to remind you to it's hashtag the issue, and we won't put your handle up. So if we can see that other tweet, please. Okay. Work. Would the town support subsidized sharing public workspaces so that small businesses can grow and support the local economy?
That would be
Really?
fantastic, and
Will you?
I will. I
Okay.
would love to see that.
And we're not rolling out your campaign.
No,
here.
these are companies, entrepreneurs, small private businesses that are going to grow as a tax base. And it's important to keep them right here. There's no reason that we can't. When I'm sitting, I sit on the board at Haltech, and they're always bringing up these really bright minds and going, where are we going to put them? Well, the problem is that we don't really have enough space right here. Towns have to get involved. Burlington and Oakville actually have done a fairly good job at keeping their smaller spaces available. Now, they have also an advantage. They have some older buildings which have smaller spaces.
Contributes.
Of course. So, but can we do the same thing here? It's, I think it's something that we need to look at it, maybe getting some of the building owners and the landowners also to talk to some of the other people either in the municipality or companies that feed these smaller incubation spaces so that they're all under a certain understanding. Quite frankly, they don't even need the walls in there. If it's just open space, they love that stuff. You know, we look at it and go, oh, we need to do carpeting. There's one place in Burlington right now called The Hive. We had an open invitation to it. They were filling it up before they even opened. And it was already half full by the time they had their gala, and they had opened for one day. And all they did was it was flat concrete on the floor. They just, you know, put that sheen on it. They threw in some really, you know, cool IKEA furniture. They have a boardroom. They have shared phone space. And they have, you know, one person that kind of handles the IT to say, well, if you want your phone to ring here, we can actually have it to ring to your extension and that type of stuff. And
That's good.
it makes them look fantastic.
But you
And
know-
that was something that they just did right off the cuff. And even the gentleman said, he goes, I really took a chance, like yourself. I saw a need. I really didn't, you know if this was going to work, and it just went like gangbusters.
But does that
not
take the
new.
municipality though to be investing in this type of space?
No, it's to encourage it,
Encourage
but I think there's an opportunity for the municipality going forward, perhaps in Milton here. But getting back to a minute, I'm going to put a plug in for the downtown because I have an investment in the downtown, and I have office space that's never empty, almost never empty, that varies from 80 square feet to 300-400.
Right.
And right now, it's been reasonably fully occupied. Second floor, elevator access, washrooms around the corner, not expensive in the sense of small space. And I have no, I think the person the real estate agents are the ones that can tell you that yes, there's a lot of demand for small space. Nobody wants 2,000 square feet if they can only justify 200.
Right.
So, but it's not new. My building's been there since 1887. Mind you, it hasn't looked like it is today. But,
And I know your building, actually,
yeah.
it's a nice building.
Yeah.
But, and the great part about your building is it is smaller space.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it fills up so quickly. I think we're seeing a pretty good influx lately. It's very attractive to sell a 1 million square foot facility because, of course, the tax base for that is there. The problem is it's not something that your average person coming out of their home, which is what we're talking about, live, work, play, and moving to that next level, that small to medium business with the brick and mortar, which is exactly what your office offers.
And earlier than that, of course, was community social services, community groups wanting to come up from Oakville, Burlington, being a part of Milton, but not being able to say, I can't rent an office for 5 days a week, I can rent one for one. There's an opportunity there, and we did work on that 30 years ago. Now I'm very careful. 30 years ago, we worked on that concept of a hub for agencies wanting exposure in the Milton area. And that worked very well. I don't know where it is right at this immediate point, but it's still operating. But in that venue of social services or community groups, volunteer community
Is that
group.
right?
Oh, yes. Oh,
30
yeah.
years ago, you were ahead of your time.
Well, I was on the curve there somewhere.
But I really believe that the municipalities have to be much more flexible
Right.
in the determination of businesses and where they can go and the size of businesses.
Zoning.
Zoning is a huge issue.
And building code is another issue that's really terrible in this thing as well.
From what point of view?
There's so many things that you seem to be up against a wall to make things smaller. Everything wants to be bigger and less, but
Bigger is better, is
well,
that so?
yeah, and they're easy to do. But if you want to move a wall from here to here, or put another wall into here,
They make you jump through a tremendous amount of hoops, and too many. There has to be a certain amount of streamlining. I mean, if you look at the film industry in Toronto, the reason that they got called Hollywood North is because they cut out all the red tape. But it takes somebody with the will to make that happen. If somebody can stand up and say, we really need to change this, we're missing our opportunity, and you can't look at something just from now, throughout the year. This is something that we change now that could affect the next 25 to 30 years by doing it right the first time. And by jumping through all that red tape for small business especially, saying, I have space, but you're making me fill out so much paperwork, I just simply don't want to knock down that one wall.
or build two more.
Or
type of
build
thing.
two
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, a safety, of course, is utmost important. So, of course, you have to have the building code adhered to, and no one, I think, is disputing that. But to make it so that it's anti-productive instead of productive, I think is a detriment, unfortunately, to this area.
And I think all municipalities in Halton could take a lesson to remember that there's small people that come to the building department and the bylaw department and so on, besides the madamies and a few others like that. There is people who just need a little bit of help or a little bit of movement here or there to get, to be satisfied. And
Sure.
sometimes with the hustle and bustle of especially Milton today and the other communities, they have the same problem. The focus is on the bigger picture all the time, and they forget that there's a little guy here somewhere along the way as well, looking for something like that.
Well, live, work, play, retire, I guess, if we're going to include Burlington. That's a big part of it. It means that the community of Halton has to become total. And is it now? Is there enough of those large businesses that the small businesses can service? Is there enough of the recreation facilities for people who want to live, work, and play in the community to stay here? Or is the idea of live, work, play really a false idea because you have to go out of the community at some point and not everything can take place in here?
Yeah, not everything can take place here. I think things are close enough to us where we don't have to go that far. I think the days of saying I've got to go, all the way to Kitchener or Guelph or Toronto, for that fact of the matter, to get what I need done. I don't think we really need to do that anymore.
We're in a wonderful part of Ontario that says you can go almost any direction and hit the same store in 4 different cities, 4 different communities on our border within 20 minutes, and it'd be the same store.
I agree.
So that it's a wonderful part of Ontario in the sense of being able to say, okay, I need to go to Mississauga for this, well, I can drop in over there to do that type of thing. But obviously, if it's not available in the community, but Burlington, Oakville, Milton, and Halton Hills have a wonderful ability to be almost anywhere, and that's where the transportation and the economy of what we're seeing being built in our community is certainly focusing on that. But certainly the individual, looking at the individual. I found, like, I worked in the same house I lived in for years. I worked in Toronto, I worked in Hamilton, I worked in Guelph, and over those years. But at the same time today, yes, you can, if it isn't here in town, or if it isn't available, it's not very far away.
That's right.
We have 3 international airports within half an hour of this community. Now, 2 of them are a little on the small side, but
they're
nonetheless, they're there as an international airport. Hey,
I know.
you know, I don't think you get much better than that, quite frankly. Really.
Good. Well, we've got another tweet, and they're going to pull us back, kicking and screaming, to talk about transit.
Oh, yes.
So,
yeah.
how do you get people out of their cars and into public transit? That is the question of the day.
Has to be convenient. People will not get out of their cars unless it's convenient. We can throw all the buses we want and trains we want at everybody, but if it is a train or a bus to nowhere, no one's going to take it.
But you see, I think municipal councils in the past have always looked at transit as being specifically for the socioeconomic group that's
Doesn't have a
a
car.
little
Yep.
disadvantaged. And that premise is blown right away when you look at GO Transit. When you're standing, as you say, Rob, you've taken GO Transit down to Toronto, and you know that when you're standing on that platform, you have got executive assistants and you've got presidents of organizations.
Oh, yeah.
So isn't the criteria threefold? You've got to make it comfortable for reasonably comfortable for them. You've got to make it convenient to get to.
To and from, however you...
And it's got to be an economic advantage rather than driving.
Yes, and this has been a problem even in Toronto that they've been kicking and screaming about for years. There's that line where it's actually cheaper in some cases, believe it or not, to drive your car to a Green P parking and drive downtown rather than hopping on the transit when they keep bumping up the prices year after year after year. And once again, you have to make it convenient. So if I hop on the transit, I need to know where I'm going. The problem that we've seen in Milton is there was no low-tech solution to telling people when the next bus was coming. They were all looking for a high-tech solution. There wasn't even any of those little paper things on the pole to say, here's when the next bus or transit's coming by. To me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. People really will start using these things if there is just something that indicates when it's coming, where it's going to, how do I get there, without making it complicated for people.
I was going to say the new electronic information stuff that we talked about very quickly earlier falls into that. I mean, obviously in Toronto it's pretty easy to find out when the next one's coming. So I presume without a lot of effort that could be put into Milton and probably solve some of that problem. But I want to get back to another issue. Why is the focus on public transit? Maybe people should bloody well walk or ride their bike. What's wrong with that?
Good point. Well, in
this
Milton, how many bike lanes have you got?
Well, there's a lot of bike paths, which will get you right across the community, as I understand it.
Yeah.
And maybe people who could, get a bike and use that as transportation. I agree, coming up in the next few months may be a little more difficult, but certainly. Certainly,
but
it's an issue.
In Sweden, it's 12 months of the year they ride their bikes.
Sure.
And they've, I think we'd all agree that they are
and they're better fit.
A heavy user of other than cars, walking, biking, and transit.
And I'm sure all of our communities would be better served by the health of the people if actually they did get out and either walk or bike or jog or whatever it is to around the community as compared to relying on public transit. So that's another component that I think
we are seeing.
You can't just talk about public transit without saying, okay, let's do some other things besides drive the car, and that's one thing that I mean.
Sure.
I don't own a bike,
point.
but I mean that's the issue I see in the urban area.
I
Absolutely.
think a lot of people are doing much more biking in the area, especially with the velodrome coming. I think there's a real uptake right now in people saying, you know what, I think I'll get that bike out and I think I'll do a little bit more of that. I've certainly noticed a lot of people biking in the area, more so than when I first moved here. I'm seeing it increase over time. And I agree. I think the public transit really are for people in the winter months, right? Because we don't really have a way of moving that snow off those bike paths currently. I always see, you know, the regular sidewalks being cleaned, but not the bike paths. And they kind of let those just, you know, get snowed over. That's what I've noticed in my area, and I'm over at Darien Thompson Trudeau area. So they, you know, it's just snowdrift at that point, and pretty much until March. But maybe that's something that they should look at. Maybe the word transit, we keep thinking of the traditional bus train, and we have to start looking at all forms of transportation, not just
Those
that.
passive methods.
And
of
maybe we have to
transportation
think
as
out of the box as well. You know, we have these really large buses carrying 3 or 4 people. To me, that doesn't make any economic sense whatsoever. Maybe what we need to do is right-size it. So get smaller transportation options, getting us into more of the rural areas, and then leaving the larger buses for the larger arteries like Derry, like Steeles, like Maine, and picking up. So the smaller ones feed into those larger east-west lines, which we're not currently doing. That to me could be something that would maybe right-size the situation. No one says a bus has to be that size.
And there are different sizes, but just before, I don't want to lose track of the fact that we're not talking about riding your bike in the rural area.
Right.
Because there's not the safety factors in there that is. So just, I don't want to see some tweets coming about,
of course,
about riding the bike. We're talking about the urban area, moving around the urban area, which is where the transit is today, of course.
But doesn't there have to be, the mayor of Burlington got back a few months ago from a trip over to Europe, and he was saying to me on another show that I do down in Burlington about raised bike lanes on the road, but raised, not significantly, but raised slightly to give the rider of the bike a little more confidence that there's that separation, because right now it's just a painted line down beside. Would that encourage more use of bikes?
You would probably have to ask the association. I know there's like these really large biking associations. They'd be definitely the ones to ask. I would assume that in Europe, being very friendly to bicycle and rail, they'd be obviously the ones to experiment with these things first. It sounds like a great concept. The real issue is the cost of that concept. That would be probably quite expensive to do. Now, in the planning maybe of these newer areas, maybe they could you know, do it at the same time.
It's always the chicken and the egg.
It really
what comes first? And I've wrestled with this for a number of years and come to the come to the conclusion that, fortunately or unfortunately, the best solution to it is, drum roll, provide the service and the ridership will come. That's a difficult thing, as you know, Brad, to sell to a municipality.
Yeah, and Milton has always taken somewhat of a lead. I know even when I was on council, we had a bus. I think it was only 1 or 1.5 or something. But and we know municipalities that are not getting into it, and that's another issue. But
well, speaking of another issue, all you have to do is tweet, hashtag the issue, and you can get involved in the conversation. And I think we have another tweet from the viewing public. Milton is growing. What is the town doing to promote leisure and recreational services and programs for all residents? Good question.
It's a long way from where it was not that many years ago. I can vouch for that, but I don't, how do I put it, at my age I don't participate in a lot of these. I'm still running around the farm, but there is certainly a whole host of stuff today that, first of all, wasn't thought of, secondly, wasn't available not that long ago. But,
well, the Milton Sports Center is just a fantastic facility, and I don't think a lot of people have actually gone to the back.
The back of it, yeah.
Yeah, and because you just see that
The
front
swimming pool,
facade.
yeah, the pool.
There is a huge area. There's tons of baseball diamonds. There's tons of soccer fields out there. Every single school that I see being built in our area, the new one on Louis St. Laurent, has a beautiful all year round,
So is it a
fake
matter
grass
of,
area.
So
It's
is it a
beautiful.
matter of promotion? Does the municipality have to get more deeply involved in recreation? They spend an awful lot of money on it.
Oh, yes.
Generally.
And these people that buying these houses are paying for a lot of that, I mean, most of it. But it does go, I think it comes back to the issue of the philosophy, I believe, is still valid in Milton here, where the programs for adults are sort of self-sufficient. And sometimes the question that was asked gets rolled into the price. And if you want a nice swimming pool, it costs money. And if you want, as an adult, if you want to participate, and there's lots to do, and I should be doing myself, you pay the appropriate rate, whatever it's going. And the kids' programs can be subsidized, and I think that's probably still in effect. And that's a great way to run it, because that'll allow a family who has a number of children who can't, doesn't have the capability to participate in these. But I don't think there's too many facilities in the town of Milton that are absent.
I would say call your member of council
Council, and there's 8 of them, or 11 of them.
Get them involved. Gentlemen, in about 30 seconds, live, work, play. Have we got a good balance in this municipality?
We do. I'm making a bit of a prediction. I think if we don't cut out some of that red tape you were talking about earlier, I think what we're going to see is a problem for the municipality, because people will make their own rules. And what I'm seeing is, instead of having the 1-2 people working out of a home, they're actually getting some little employees to work out of their home. And all of a sudden you have a house all day long with, instead of 3 people in it, you have 8 people in it. And that's going to put a little bit of pressure on our municipal services, water, hydro, all those things that weren't accounted for. And yes, and if everybody starts doing that, I always encourage, working out of your home. I think it's a great idea. But what'll happen is, if you don't massage those issues now, all of a sudden people will make their own work play area, and because they'll say, hey, I can fit 8 people in my basement.
Yeah. Brad, have we got a good balance of live, work, play?
From my perspective, I think so, because of our rural area. Gives it the extra opportunity that most places don't have. I think our facilities, as we talked about earlier, our recreational facilities are pretty
terrific.
second to none. Anyway,
gentlemen, we're out of time. That hour went by quite quickly. Thanks a lot for participating, and thank you for participating in the discussion, live, work, play. I do want to remind you, we'll be back here again next week with a new issue on #The Issue. I'm Mark Carr for TV Cogeco, truly local television.
Kickoff. Catch us every Wednesday at 7 o'clock.
And Fridays at 6:30.
In HD on Channel 700, only on TV Cogeco.